Welcome to the Fitgenes podcast with Dr. Sam Shay, DC, functional medicine certified professional and Fitgenes certified practitioner. Your genes are your most powerful blueprint. It holds the story of how your body truly works. This show is here for one reason: to decode your DNA, making genetics practical, guiding you towards your best nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle choices. Whether you're a health seeker, a lifelong learner, a practitioner, or a health coach ready to go deeper, this is your place to make sense of genetics. Together, we'll cut through the noise, turn data into insight, and help you communicate with confidence so you can create real change in yourself and in those you support. Each episode breaks down complex genetics into clear, usable frameworks you can actually apply. So stop guessing, start decoding, and let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome back to the show. We're here with Dr. Sam Shay, DC, functional medicine certified professional. I am your co-host, Mikayla Wachsmann, master's in human nutrition and functional medicine, board certified nutrition specialist, and former mentee of Dr. Sam. Today we're diving into alcohol intolerance. Dr. Sam, why are we talking about alcohol intolerance from a genetics point of view?
Well, alcohol is one of the most influential and consequential substances on the planet. Even though it's a relatively recent addition, yes, there are history books that talk about the fermentation of fruits, slightly rotting fruits, and one working theory was that it was, the whole history of civilization actually coalesced because people were using agriculture not for food but for fizz. But alcohol, without a question or doubt, is one of the most important realities on the planet and was the most important societally shaping substances on the planet. And from a genetics standpoint, there are certain genes that make it really hard to metabolize alcohol, and these same genes, paradoxically, some people may be thinking, well, that's terrible, you can't metabolize alcohol. Well, paradoxically, people who can metabolize alcohol actually are high risk of alcoholism. So this is not, this is not a clear case of red dot, yellow dot bad, green dot good. It's a little bit more complex than that, and just the trends right now in the West, anyway, that the alcohol consumption is dropping, and there's a lot of theories as to why. And alcohol itself has become now a part of the public discourse, where there's certain people that are concerned that people are drinking less, and it's actually having societal impact. At least in the West.
The sober curious movement.
The sober curious. I haven't heard a phrase like that. Okay.
Really?
I've never heard sober curious.
Oh,
no.
Yeah, it's a movement.
I made up my own. Here. I mean, when I did my comedy show, Neurospicy, I said, like, if you're neurospicy curious, I think that maybe, sure, yeah. Why not?
Same.
Okay, sober curious. Thank you. All right,
You're welcome.
I learned a new jargon term. So I think it's just alcohol intersects with everyone's life, whether they want to or not. In fact, the fact you have to identify yourself as sober, if you've never come in contact with alcohol or your personal choice or your local culture or religion or whatever, whether you're Mormon or Muslim or a certain sects of Hinduism or whatever, that's just like completely abstained from alcohol, like, in some ways you can divide people it's part of your identity. It's one of the things you rattle off. Are you or are you not a drinker? It's that important to delineate as part of your identity. It's one of the things people look for. So we're gonna talk about alcohol today, and even if you don't drink, you really should listen to this. And if you do drink, also you should listen to this. Yeah.
And it's not to condemn anyone. It's just a conversation, and education is power.
Well, it's not about condemnation. It's about education. Yeah. But I will be talking about some pretty damning things about alcohol. Yeah. But I will also be talking about some of the culturally and historical redemptive things about it. And my job is to present what the science and the research and the anthropology and the evolutionary biology and the neurology says. And then people make their choices as they do. At least they do it with full knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you have any personal history around alcohol that would help us to better understand the context here? and maybe some other people could also relate to. And
Yeah. So I will again. I'm going to start off with my family's fraught history with alcohol, and people may interpret that as influencing my view on alcohol, and they would be right.
yeah.
And I'm also going to talk about right after some of the more recent public thinkers' views on the redemptive qualities of alcohol and what has been lost from the drop of consumption in the West. And so, from a family standpoint, my great uncle was a violent drunk, and that had very meaningful, formative consequences on both my grandmother, on my father's side, and my father. I'll leave the details to the imagination, but needless to say, not. When I say this, I'm not saying this phrase from a religious standpoint. I'm saying this from just the reality of it. It's not a prediction. It's an observation. The sins of the father shall be felt unto the seventh generation. Well, that includes uncles. And it wasn't a threat. It was an observation. And what my great uncle did absolutely affects me, because it affects my grandmother and affected my father. And that affected his parenting and my grandmother's grandparenting. So there's that. The other is that someone who's very, very, very close to me committed suicide through alcohol. And I will never forget that.
Yeah.
The other was that I was almost killed by alcohol because my mother's de facto third husband was driving us drunk. I didn't realize it until we were like 3 minutes into the car ride, and he almost got us into no less than 4 separate accidents.
Wow.
And that's not an exaggeration, because I detailed every single moment in a very harsh email to document it immediately that night. And the other reality is that in college, I was the man in college that the women who in the dorm or surrounds who got hurt, they would come and talk to about all the tragic things that happen, and usually when alcohol was involved.
Yeah.
And the other stark reality is that it's estimated that 50% of all murders and rapes have alcohol involved, usually on both sides. So if there was
it's a very glaring statistic.
Very glaring. If there's a way to drop the murder rate and the rape rate by 50%, I would hope people would want to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure their listeners, practitioners, whoever, is listening on the other end of this can relate or know of someone or even if it's a family friend, not direct or direct, can relate to some of these things that you're mentioning too. So it's very prevalent, whether you drink or not, like you mentioned. So
yeah. The other impact I want to write about, what happens around alcohol is I do want to acknowledge the societal impact. Like there was a recent interview with Scott Galloway on the Huberman Lab podcast where he talked about how alcohol was the social lubricant. The title of the podcast, if people are interested, is Male Roles, Obligations, and Options for Building a Fulfilling Life. And he talks about how obviously with the 3,700 asterisks and disclaimers of don't drink too much, and too much, and it causes all these problems, and people can get addicted and all these other things. He's like, it has been used to relax people, to open up. He noticed, Scott said very explicitly, that his male buddies would open up.
Yeah.
And that you can connect better once they're a bit more loosened up. And that I also pointed out that isolation is more dangerous than alcohol, and that what we're having today is digital isolation as opposed to social inebriation.
Yeah, there's definitely an isolation epidemic. I just had a quick question with what you're talking about and how the men can be more open if and when there's alcohol present. Do you have any just brief thoughts on whether that is beneficial, not beneficial, anything there? Because I think I've heard this in conversation many times. It's not the first time even in the past couple of weeks, it's been brought up in my own circles of friends and people, and so I'm just curious your thoughts.
That is...
how we go about handling, because I think that some people, I'll give more context.
Yeah.
Some of the men that I've had conversations with, or that friends of friends have had conversations with, almost use it as a justification for continuing to drink.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some people just don't feel confident in their social skills, or just feel awkward or stressed out, and they're needing some sort of chemical reset, jumpstart, whatever the right word is,
Yeah.
some way to just kind of to have whether it's the chemical or the ritual of drinking, that, and certainly the chemicals will help, but there's also like the ritualistic, like, you know, the of the beer can, or
it's like a coffee.
Cheers or whatever.
You know?
It's a ritualistic thing of, we're now entering into a social engagement, as opposed to, we're shedding kind of the professional side of us and the masking. We're now becoming more real. And then there's also people, it's like with anything, that you can have an excuse to do anything. Look, I would watch my mother's de facto third husband. I mean, I was the one who called out he was an alcoholic well before anyone else. And because I know that face, I know the behaviors, because I was a former addict, not of alcohol, but of sugar and video games. I was a video game addict for 25 years and a sugar addict for 15 years. And I know that face. I know the insincere offer, the insincere thousand, oh, would you like some? Who would like some more? And then it's like kind of this 1,000-yard stare, and like, no one wants it. And it's like, okay. And then like, that's look at me being generous and socially attuned by offering a totally insincere lie. And I saw him do that at the dinner table. He'd literally pick up a wine bottle and with that 1,000-yard stare, be like, you know, and it was just so obvious. But, and I, you know, there's also the enablers of over drinking. My mother was one of them, until he got his transgressions got so egregious that it was difficult to ignore.
Yeah.
But I picked it up, and so he was using social engagements as an excuse to drink. And I mean, this is not specific to alcohol. This can be any substance or behavior.
Yeah.
You know, someone has a problem with gambling, and they just like, hey, let's go hang out. Let's go to the track. Some random, highly non-random place to go.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's one of those common, I won't call it normal, but it's become very common. And so I think just identifying what is common versus what is actually normal and beneficial, and maybe, you know, for those who are wanting to improve their health, how do we separate the two, especially in social situations, can be very difficult, or with past beliefs.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. We're going to cover practical stuff, like what to do if people want to. How do you approach a social reality when there's alcohol involved? I mean, I actually wrote an article back when I lived in New Zealand, where it's like what to do when your friends still want you to drink. And this came out of
a lot of people's ears perked up right there.
Yeah, what do you do? And this came out of a real experience where a patient of mine came to me, and she wanted to stop drinking because she didn't want to yell at her 4-year-old daughter anymore. She recognized that alcohol was making her angry, and she brought her daughter at one point to an appointment. Her daughter's like the sweetest button, like just like in the moment I met her daughter, I was like, oh God, no wonder she feels guilty, because this is like the sweetest, kindest child I've met. Like, why would you ever yell at? This is impossible.
Yeah. And we can go into that science soon.
Yeah, we will. Get ready. Oh boy, get ready.
She didn't want to be doing that, but this is where some of the genetic components.
Well, and social. What happened was
in.
that I asked. So when we ran her genetics, we ran a functional lab test and saw that her liver enzymes were not great, and then also ran her genetics and showed that alcohol was just not an option for her. Just genetically, it was not healthy for her. And I talked about, you know, I'm also an acupuncturist, or I have an acupuncture degree. I don't practice acupuncture anymore, but you know, in Chinese medicine, the liver's main emotion is anger, and this is where you can see, yes, the for the skeptics out there, yes, I get it. They didn't have Western science and lab data back then, but what they did have is incredibly rich metaphorical language based on thousands of years of observation.
Yeah.
And alcohol can make people angry.
Isn't resentment also?
Resentment's a gallbladder, which is obviously connected quite literally to the liver. In fact, in Chinese Chinese philosophy, this is resentment is just ossified anger. So whenever she drinks, she get angry and yell at her just absolutely innocent 4-year-old daughter. And so then I showed her her genetics, her labs, and it was very clear that she was ready to. I said, okay, clearly this is you ready to stop, right? Like I can't remember exactly how I phrased it.
Yeah.
But she looked at me in this really strange expression that was like. It was fear that she had, and I caught it, and I was like, why are you what are you hesitating about? And she said, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my friends if I stop drinking. Now remember, this is New Zealand.
Heavy.
Yeah, this is New Zealand, where drinking is the national sport, second only to rugby.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's
laughing because it's tragic.
It's
you can
tragic.
laugh at both. That's one of the.
Yeah.
I mean, a whole separate podcast on the anthropology and neurology behind laughter. That's hence being a stand-up comic.
Yes, but that is really heavy.
It's super heavy. And my response to her, well, I'm afraid I'll lose my friends. My direct response was, well, you'll find out who your real friends are, won't you?
Yeah.
And then she laughed and then nodded solemnly. And then the next time I saw her, she came in, like it was a month later, she came in with another really bizarre expression. It was like this. It was like this face I can only describe as you won't believe what I'm about to tell you.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked at her, I was like, what's going on? And she's like, you won't believe this until I tell you. I was like, okay.
Please tell me.
So I called one of my friends who I have been literally drinking on Friday nights every Friday for 25 years.
Wow.
I told her, hey, my doctor said that I need to come off alcohol. I really want to. I've got the labs to prove it. It's helping me emotionally.
Help me not be angry at my daughter, probably.
I've just I just need to stop alcohol for a bit. I still want to hang out with you on Fridays, but I'm just not going to be drinking. And she said, my friend was silent for a very long time, and then said the following, quote, call me back when you start drinking again.
No.
And hung up on me.
No. Need new friends.
Hung up on her.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Adult friendships changing or ending. No one gives you a playbook on that, and that is really hard and really sad. Thank God she had you.
Yeah, and I said to her, well, I guess you found out who your real friends were, didn't you? She's like, I thought of you the moment that happened.
Wow.
I thought of exactly what you said. So from that, I thanked her for sharing because
it's a powerful story.
Then we talked about like strategies of how to navigate that, but also like what to say in future cases and whatnot. Like, so alcohol. Like the reason why we're talking about, one of the reasons why genetics can be so powerful when it comes to alcohol is that I've had, I'm a fan of reality, and I want people to know and have choice and consent around their body's reaction to a substance that may or may not be genetically compatible. Yeah. So if you're going to do a thing that is not good for you genetically, then at least do it knowingly. Yeah. And then decide to live with the consequences and make adaptations as is possible. Not, I mean, there's some things you just can't totally undo. Yeah. But, and the other is that some people, I've had about a half dozen people from seeing their genetics report on alcohol just quit alcohol on the spot. Now, this is not to say that
everyone has to necessarily do that.
Not that everyone has to or everyone will, but for the people that just needed the inarguable finality of, oh, genetically it's also bad for me, I guess I have to stop kidding myself. Look, and I had the same response to caffeine. Yeah. I had red dot, big bright red dot in caffeine, and I was kidding myself for couple decades,
Yeah.
that caffeine is okay as long as I have enough coconut oil in it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was
Cue
conflating
the caffeine podcast that we recorded
right, yeah.
previously.
That was we did like an hour or something on that just on caffeine.
There's so much to talk about with caffeine.
So I have a lot of sympathy for people because
Yeah.
I had the same thing with caffeine where I was kidding myself
Yeah.
that I was conflating my anxiety that I had after caffeine for, oh, look, it's all energy. Whereas a lot of people kid themselves about how helpful or at least benign or tolerable their alcohol consumption is, whether it's socially or physically or biochemically.
Yeah. And actually, can you just give us a little refresh on the dots, since we're talking about the red dots, just for our listeners?
Genetic reports are powerful, but only if you can actually interpret them and your clients can really understand what to do and in what priority. If you're a health coach, clinician, or practitioner who feels buried in genetics pathways, complex list of SNPs, and jargon that never seems to end, you're not alone. At FitGenesUSA.com, we make genetics understandable and actionable. FitGenesUSA.com distills the complexity of genetics into practical frameworks that you can use the same day. Faster interpretation, clearer communication, and better outcomes without spending hours lost in the weeds. Whether you're supporting weight loss, optimizing diet, hormone balance, digestion, inflammation, or getting to the underlying cause of chronic issues, genetic clarity can change everything. FitGenesUSA.com also provides a unique genetic carb tolerance report to help determine whether your clients are better suited to a keto or paleo or Mediterranean or higher carb style diet. Make your practice stand out with this unique report. Save time and energy with clear, easy to read reports and upgrade your practice with precision genetics testing. Start now at FitGenesUSA.com. Decode complexity, deliver results. So what a dot is when you, for genetics, you inherit two copies of a gene, one from mom, one from dad. And a green dot is where both of them are the normal, healthy functioning of that gene. It's the more beneficial version of that gene. And then you can have a yellow dot, which is one good copy, one bad copy. It doesn't matter from if it's mom or dad in this case. And one of the genes is contributing to a situation that impairs the healthy functioning of a gene product. The gene product meaning a protein.
Yep.
And then the red dot, it's the least beneficial. It's where both genes are contributing to a situation that impairs healthy functioning of that protein. Now, in kind of simplistic terms, good, green, yellow, bad, red, very bad.
Yeah.
That's a bit simplistic.
Generalized.
And it's not 100% true in all cases, but just for simplicity's sake, that's the better way to take it. We take yellow dots seriously with a couple exceptions that we mention when we see it. Like there's a couple of genes where the yellow dot, it does not follow this pattern, like the lactose intolerance gene. The is still functionally more like a green dot than a yellow dot because you only one copy to make the enzyme that's insufficient to break down lactose sugar. Yellow, red dot in your fiber type for exercise. It's not a good bad thing. It's just it's different.
And in this case, we're talking about which genes for alcohol.
So for the right. So for the genes themselves, we're talking about alcohol dehydrogenase.
Great.
And aldehyde tongue twister there.
If anyone can say those 5 times fast.
Yeah, alcohol dehydrogenase and aldehyde dehydrogenase. For the super nerds out there, as if I wasn't nerdy enough, it's ALDH2, or the RSID number is RS671, and that's for the alcohol dehydrogenase. That's the aldehyde dehydrogenase. Then there's ADH1B, known as RS1229984.
Sounds like Star Wars.
Exactly. Lily's log, star date.
But so these
Need
are the
squirrels.
2 main.
Must have squirrels. Where's my dog food and squirrels? Must pet. Yeah. So these
are the 2 main alcohol intolerance genes
Yeah.
that we're looking at and going to be further talking about the rest
Correct.
of
And
this
so
podcast.
the basic premise is that ethanol or alcohol is converted by alcohol dehydrogenase or ADH1B into acetaldehyde. This is more like a phase 1 liver detox, and it's making it very toxic. And
It becomes more toxic.
It becomes more toxic. And it's like that washer dryer analogy from liver detox. The washer is phase 1, the dryer is phase 2. I learned this from Dr. Kalish, who I mentored with for 4 years. And basically, if you wash clothing but you don't dry it, then the clothing gets moldy and worse than if you never washed it. It's the same thing.
If you haven't ever experienced that,
yeah,
good
don't.
for you.
Yeah, for science, take your least favorite sock and follow this experiment. And what happens is that in order to detox the body, to detox a chemical, you ironically make it more reactive in order to then make it hyper-reactive to another molecule your body kind of sticky tacks on top of it to make it clunkier so it doesn't stick around as much and gets pooped or urinated out.
And as an aside for clinicians listening, is this an okay way to explain if they're using the genetics test, right, with their clients and they're going to explain alcohol intolerance? Is this washer dryer analogy something you also use with your patients?
It is directionally correct, but not technically accurate, because technically the second step is not a phase 2. It's still a phase 1.
Okay.
Alcohol detox doesn't really go through a phase 2 section. It just goes through a slightly different version of a phase 1 and is then not detoxed out of the body. So, ethanol goes to acetaldehyde, which is toxic. Then it's converted through aldehyde dehydrogenase into acetate.
Okay.
Or acetic acid, which is then used by the body as a fuel source. So it's not quite, it has the first step of liver detox, but the second step is not quite phase 2. I don't quite have the correct analogy coming out of the washer going into a slightly different washer. It's a little,
Maybe it's like a second rinse, like an extra rinse.
It's more like it's like you put it, it's less like you put it in the washer and then put it in a dryer, more like you put it into like an oven and then you put it through a second cook cycle to make it actually edible on the way out. But if you don't put it in a second cook cycle, then it will sit there and rot and attract flies. I don't know. We're moving on from this metaphor. We're failing. I'm failing here.
So maybe a metaphor that you would use with your patients.
Is alcohol bad? That's the metaphor. So, but the way to really describe it is like the first enzyme. The real bad guy in this is the acetaldehyde. It's the first product that's made from alcohol dehydrogenase. That's the one that's the problem. That really causes damage.
Whether it's a green, red, or yellow dot in someone.
So what happens is that if the acetaldehyde can get trapped in the middle. So if you have a yellow or red dot in the alcohol dehydrogenase, the ADH1B, you speed up the conversion of alcohol into acetaldehyde. So you have more acetaldehyde. But the second step, aldehyde dehydrogenase, what happens is that the yellow and red dot now makes the enzyme slower. So the acetaldehyde can't be transitioned fast enough.
So it stays in the body for longer.
Correct. That's it. Yeah.
And it stays in the body more toxic.
Correct.
For longer.
Yeah. And so this is what we call, like, people get hangovers, facial flushing, they feel sick. And it's very geographic, and depending on what lineages people come from, there's a very, very high probability you have variations, to the point where it's been named. I didn't name this is the scientific literature. The Asian flush, where in Asia, people of Asian descent usually have these variations.
Yellow or red?
Yeah, well, yellow and red in both.
Okay.
That where they've got they're more risk of having a toxic alcohol response. And what's interesting is that there's there was Asian folklore to not have the fruit durian when having alcohol. And when I was researching aldehyde dehydrogenase, it turns out that durian inhibits the aldehyde dehydrogenase enzyme, which means that the acetaldehyde stays longer and it can't get out.
Even longer. So in someone with a double red dot, that would be
really bad.
Really bad.
Yeah, so the folklore has scientific credence to it. So, acetic acid is burned as energy in muscle and the heart and the brain. It's not necessarily the ideal fuel source, but it is a fuel source. That's why alcohol becomes calories from protein and carbs are like, there's 4 calories per gram, fat is 9, but alcohol is like this weird hybrid where it's 7. And that's where this is coming from, that acetic acid, that this whole process creates 7 calories of energy. This is why people can, quote, drink their calories.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that. That's really helpful. I know just for myself, but also hopefully for both potential non-clinicians and clinicians listening. So if we were to dive in a little bit more deeply into the science on, the practitioner problem or the what's confusing kind of side of this component, what would you say, or how would you talk through this alcohol intolerance picture with a
so
clinician?
the way that I would present it is, if someone, the easy thing to talk about is the yellow and red dots. That alcohol is difficult for you to metabolize. It creates this toxic byproduct. The Scrabble word is called acetaldehyde. And by the way, that's a thing I'd like clinicians and coaches to take with you. That phrase, the Scrabble word, is.
Yeah.
So when you preempt a long or unfamiliar word with this, this is the Scrabble word, it defangs any insecurity or confusion on the part of your patient or client.
Yeah.
Because if you just say, "Hey, look, this is a
great
Scrabble
tool.
word," it's like, oh, okay. Like, then people can not feel not feel uncomfortable, insecure, confused by the fact that it's a
Yeah.
really long sounding word, which it is.
It is.
And
yeah.
it also is a great Scrabble word. In fact, you can't even fit it in a 7-letter word. Probably if you like hide and then acetal, however. I mean, you have to be very
Break it
clever
up.
to fit that on the board. But anyway, so it's a very gentle way of talking about big terms, and for people with red and yellow dots, it's very straightforward. So look, alcohol is not really a healthy option for your system from a physical health standpoint. I'm not. I acknowledge that there may be some social benefits with alcohol in very specific circumstances under strict moderation, etc. But like alcohol and your genes just don't mix.
Yeah.
And that's when, we would start talking about, like, are you, like, and if they're like really holding on to alcohol with 2 hands, then they go into having more potentially uncomfortable conversations and talking about signs of alcohol dependence, the business between binge drinking and heavy drinking and alcoholism. So just definitionally, and this is also an important thing for clinicians to know and coaches to know, according to the CDC, that binge drinking for males is...
If anyone can have a guess, and now we will tell you.
Yeah, it's over 4... they may have updated them more recently. I have to check, but I think it's like over 4 drinks within a 2-hour period. And for females, it was over 4 drinks within a 2-hour period, and for females, it was over 2 drinks within a 2-hour period.
There's also the week.
Well, that's heavy drinking.
Oh.
So binge drinking is in 1 unit of time.
Thank you for clarifying.
And then heavy drinking is over the course of a week. So heavy drinking for males is over 14 drinks a week, or
7-day time frame.
In a 7-day time frame. So that's on average more than 2 a day. For women, it's over 8 drinks a week, which is over 1 a day. So 1 a day technically is not heavy drinking. Now, there's all sorts of asterisks with that, like what's the percentage body fat or percentage muscle mass and weight of the individual drinking. Their genetics, like how long or how little have they been drinking. So is there an enzymatic buildup in order to compensate? There's a lot of different variables that come with this. And so when I was in New Zealand, again, there's lots of heavy drinking. Merely pointing out the definition of heavy drinking made several of my patients over there, they made their eyes bug out. It was like, wait, that's heavy drinking.
Yeah.
That's like,
I bet there's some listeners who are having that same response.
that's like by Wednesday,
Yeah.
you know, and even including colleagues. Like I was in an acupuncture class with a colleague who's in Australia, and I actually was the one who diagnosed his heavy drinking because he was actually having signs of alcohol toxicity, and he just chalked
Wasn't
it.
aware.
He wasn't aware of it. He thought it was athletic injuries, but he had specific types of joint pain, which is a pattern. I mean, not to careen too heavily into Chinese medicine, but I guess here we are. Just and this is not for in every case, but it is a pattern that's recognized when you have bilateral musculoskeletal issues in Chinese medicine philosophy. That is a time to look at, is there an underlying imbalance in the organ system through which those channels run. So the heart channel in Chinese medicine runs through the inside of the elbow, and alcohol, quote, overheats the heart. I'm not going to get into how we can physiologically justify that through Western physiology. It's a pattern that has been recognized. And so this guy had bilateral medial elbow pain, and I asked him, "What's your What's your relation? Here's another phrase. What's your relationship to alcohol?"
That's a great question.
That's how I phrase it.
Yeah,
what is your
write that
relationship to
down.
alcohol?
Yeah.
And he described his relationship to alcohol, and I was like trying to keep a straight face. And I was like, "Do you know the CDC's definition of heavy drinking?" You'll notice I didn't say addiction. I said heavy drinking.
Yeah.
And he says no, and I told it to him, and he was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "Yeah." Like, this isn't from playing tennis.
Yeah.
Like, this is...
And this was not that you were just helping him come to a more clear understanding of what was going on in his body, not from a, like, I'm judging you.
No, not at all.
And that's also...
He was a great dude. I liked him a lot. Like, he was
but
a
this
real
is very common, I
yeah.
think, and something that a lot of people aren't aware of.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, he was coming to him as a concerned colleague.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like... there's a difference when someone who has this definitional fit of heavy drinker or binge drinker, it doesn't mean you're an alcoholic or you're addicted. Addiction is more, what is the enduring damage done by the habit that you continue to endure or inflict upon yourself and others in the environment around you, despite the damage being done. You just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So an addict is more defined by the damage that's being done that they can't stop.
Yeah.
Not by the volume does not an alcoholic make. It's the enduring damage that you can't stop from happening.
Yeah.
Does an alcoholic make.
And for practitioners or clinicians listening, and even, for someone like myself who doesn't have as much confidence in maybe articulating, right, these kind of very pointed components of someone's health journey, right, where we want to guide and support them, but maybe we don't feel like we're the person to kind of bring out, like, hey, there might be alcoholism or there might be binge drinking here. How would you help us to better guide that client? Or maybe there's other resources that we could utilize.
Sure. There's a lot of resources, everything from AA to Al-Anon to just lots of audiobooks, podcasts these days of like how to understand alcohol and talk about it if you think that there's a real problem. And there's also a difference between someone who needs help and wants help.
Yeah, very big.
And when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I have someone in a friend, family, colleague, whatever, that has a problem with insert name of addiction, whether it's video games or alcohol," my first question is, do they want help or just need help?
It's a great question.
And usually there's this awkward chuckle, and I say, they need help but don't necessarily want help. So, okay, then I can't help them.
Yeah.
That
is just a reality.
Well, there is a solution to it. So to get someone from want help to being helped, that's, a really good clinician, coach, etc., AA, and so on. Getting someone from need help to want help, that's an interventionist.
Yeah.
That's a whole separate skill set.
Okay.
There's a great book, wonderful book called "It's Not Okay to Be a Cannibal" by Wainwright and Poznanovich, if I'm pronouncing the last correctly. They're two British interventionists. The title is "It's Not Okay to Be a Cannibal." I would urge every single coach and clinician to read this book if you deal with any addicted population, because they cited a statistic that blew my mind. They said that 90% of all interventions that are, their interventions work. They get someone from need to want.
Wow.
But only 10% of the families who inquire about intervention actually stage one.
Wow. Oh, we need to raise that number.
Isn't that a tragic statistic?
It's very tragic.
So, again, It's Not Okay to Be a Cannibal by Wainwright and Poznanovich. The reason why they call it cannibal, it's like, why talking about addiction? Why are you talking about cannibalism? Because they say cannibalism is actually a better term to describe what addiction is. Because someone in addiction cannibalizes their resources, their environment, their friendships, their relationships, their job, their sleep, their health in the name of their addiction. And it's also, strangely enough, a more empowering term than addiction, because right now when I say the word, oh, that person's an addict, I bet you the image of some unwashed, crouched, shaking, quivering person in the corner with a bottle in one hand and a needle in their arm and in the other arm
comes to mind.
That's and a vomit bucket in front of them. There's this really cliche image of the street bound addict, and that's a visible and noticeable percentage of addicts, but I believe it's a minority.
Yeah.
And addiction can show up in very functional, disguised ways. And that's why, and cannibalism has been removed from society. You can literally, and I've done this, go onto the Wikipedia page and just put in cannibalism and just read the history of cannibalism, and it is terrifying.
Yeah.
And also has a happy conclusion, because I think it's like the last known documented case of cannibalism was like in some super remote, maybe it was like a plane crash situation, like in like the early 2000s, and like the last case before that was like way earlier. Yeah. Something like, but like even if I got the dates mixed up, it's like it's gone. It's gone. Whereas it was definitely not gone. Not gone. Even within the past 200 years.
Yeah.
So I feel like there are ways to talk about this, and there are resources and skills out there. But the most important thing is to recognize the signs of it. So some signs of alcohol addiction or even dependence are like, there's 9 classical signs according to the American Psychology Association.
Okay.
One is just constant thinking about it, planning. Lying and deception, that's a huge red flag. If you're lying and deceiving about your use, if you're hiding your use, if you're needing to drink more and more and more, it's called tolerance. If you're having physical health symptoms that are related, but you keep doing the thing despite the problems, like with drinking, it's like your REM sleep gets screwed up. And of course, you're at the risk of higher accidents, like car accidents, like my mother's de facto third husband. Relationships and activities are sacrificed, diminished, or are impaired. That you would preoccupation is actually the technical term for constantly thinking about it. And there's a couple other signs, people. The other big sign with alcohol is like drinking alone. And that's one of the things that Scott Galloway really recommended is like, if don't ever drink alone, and have really clear limits on what you're doing, and make sure that it's a social thing. And then there was another conversation, the podcast called Conversations with Coleman, which was Coleman Hughes, the philosopher. And the title of the podcast, which is very recent, it was actually this week I listened to it, called The Case for Drinking Alcohol, which was written by British Columbia professor Edward Slingerland. And he wrote the book Drunk, How We Sipped, Danced, and Stumbled Our Way to Civilization. And he makes a very compelling case that alcohol was the thing that not only shaped civilization, but began civilization.
Oh, wow.
Because the beers before bread theory is that cultures around the world found way to make alcoholic ferments well before there was any grain products, and then grain products became a way to make easier, more abundant, reliable, more year-round alcohol products. And then one working theory, which I believe has a lot of credence to it, is that agricultural societies began not because they needed more calories, but because they needed more ways to make alcohol. Like, and then they found out later, it's like, oh wait, you can actually make this into like edible grains, not just fermentable substances to make alcoholic things with. Now, he also says the alcohol today is very different than the alcohol of yore. So the alcohol of yore had to rely only on natural fermentation, which didn't get beyond a certain percentage that really wasn't high enough to get someone blindly drunk like they do with distilled spirits. And that the real inflection point was when we learned how to do alcoholic distillation at scale.
Yeah.
That's when things went sideways.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of history with alcohol.
Totally. And in some cases alcohol was necessary because like a 2% alcoholic drink was enough to kill any microbes in the water. And it's well known that a lot of people would just be drinking some mildly alcoholic liquid all day because if they drank the local water because there wasn't modern sanitation, they'd get sick. Yeah. And that was very true in England.
Yeah. And these are realities of the history, right?
Yeah. Totally. And like there's even a term like Southern drinking culture versus Northern drinking culture. Now, we're not talking about Southern Northern United States, we're talking about Southern Europe and Northern Europe. Southern Europe, drinking is only at meals, only in a group, no alcohol is taken from the table.
Very different from
Northern,
where
you get blind drunk with vodka. Like, I mean, obviously Russia's not part of Europe.
Culture is a huge component when we're talking about alcohol.
Like the Scandinavian cultures and England and Germany have a very different drinking culture than say Italy. Yeah, very, very different.
If there was a few things that you would say to people listening, right, about whether it's historic context like what we're talking about, which is very helpful for us to understand how alcohol came to be and how it's still manifesting in society, and the genetic components and how people are to take this into their lives, what, maybe last few tidbits would you give either clinicians or listeners?
If you've been struggling with stubborn weight, low energy, inflammation, tried every diet, or just feeling off no matter what you try, there's a reason. Your body isn't broken, you've just never seen the map. The Fitgenes genetic blueprint and the Carb Choice Advanced Profiles give you clear, personalized roadmaps for your health based entirely on your unique genetics. This isn't another diet, it's not guesswork, it's not a one-size-fits-all plan. With one simple cheek swab, you finally learn how your body is genetically predisposed to burn fat, handle carbs, detox, manage inflammation, balance hormones, recover from stress, and optimize energy. Instead of forcing your body into plans that don't work, you get a nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, and supplement strategy built precisely for your body, so you can feel more energy, drop inflammation, optimize your body shape, and feel amazing. To find the nearest Fitgenes practitioner near you, go to fitgenesusa.com. That's fitgenesusa.com. Two things. One is that, consuming alcohol has a non-trivial effect on health. We didn't even talk really about sleep.
And if you have a few asides on sleep.
Alcohol can cause you to miss out on REM sleep. It's also a diuretic, meaning that you can have to wake up to pee more. The other is that alcohol can relax the smooth muscles, relax the muscles of your body, and so not the smooth muscles, the skeletal muscles of your body. So your soft palate can collapse. This is one reason why people snore more when they drink. So if someone is having trouble sleeping and they drink, that can be a real problem and a real correlation and connection there.
And we'll leave that for another podcast.
Sleep?
All of the sleep related.
Yeah, another podcast or 7.
Yeah.
So the other things to consider on alcohol is what do you do if someone's looking for alternatives?
Yeah.
So One is kombucha. Now, a couple asterisks. There are now hard kombuchas out there, which means they're basically beers disguised as probiotic health drinks.
With sugar.
With sugar.
Lots of
So,
sugar.
so alcoholic kombucha I don't consider a health food.
Yeah.
Even most.
Sorry to you, some people who thought it could be a health food.
And then there's other non-alcohol. Well, there's no kombucha that's truly non-alcoholic unless they've gone way out of their way to get rid of the alcohol. But they're like it's like 0.1%. It can be so low it's effectively nothing. But you got to watch out that the kombuchas you do have that aren't hard kombuchas don't have just like a ton of sugar. I try to look at less than 4 grams of sugar per drink, not per serving, because some of these bottling ingredient lists are tricky. They say 4 grams of sugar per serving, and there's like 2.5 servings per tiny bottle, so you're getting like 10 grams of sugar. Then there's mocktails, which also can have a lot of sugar depending on non-alcoholic wines, non-alcoholic beers. Then there's my favorite, which is just simply sparkling water with lime and mint
I also
and
really
salt.
enjoy.
Like a really great substitute is just sparkling water with lime and salt.
Yeah, and I've done this. If you are in a room with other people who are drinking and you have your mocktail of what you just described, no one will ask you anything.
Knows.
It's a really great tool, and then you don't have to have those awkward conversations, right? I mean, if you want to, that's totally fine. But if you want to just live your life and be in a social situation and not have everybody bombarding you, why aren't you drinking? Why don't you have something? Here's this. Just have a little mocktail.
Well, my math teacher in high school, Mr. Martin, I mean, technically he was PhD. He didn't want to go by Dr. Martin, but Mr. Martin, in one of his math classes, and it was calculus, he said, okay, you're about to go off to college. Let me tell you how to have a social life without needing to drink. And it was obviously it's a memorable class because I remember it, you know, integers and all that stuff. I could care less, but not integers. So those are important. Those are numbers. I mean, I can't remember.
We get back on track.
Yeah, whatever you do with calculus, whatever you do to make the lines, I don't remember. He said, like, if you're gonna go to a party, go grab a beer can, excuse yourself to the restroom, pour out the beer can, fill it with water, and then walk around with the beer can, taking drinks of it, and then 1 or 2 hours later, do the same thing but switch cans. Yeah. And so he said it's a way to, and it's obviously like eat first before you drink anything. Yeah. And
if you do choose to drink, have a glass of water in between. Like there's ways.
There's ways to minimize the damage, you know, and
take N-acetylcysteine.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to be clear about is like there are ways to help with the metabolic processing of alcohol, but this is not a thing to do to like, oh, that means I can drink more. Like, that's a no. Yeah. So things like B vitamins and N-acetylcysteine and
magnesium.
Magnesium will help. I think it's aldehyde dehydrogenase. It's one of the two enzymes. I can't remember which one. Also, your liver needs cholesterol to help process fats and help you move along the whole detox pathway to move along and help the liver repair itself, because 50% of all cells is made of cholesterol, and you are damaging your liver quite literally. So that's why a lot of people crave like bacon and the fatty foods the next morning.
Your body knows what it needs, and it will elicit those cravings, therefore. Yeah.
And my hope for people that are on the discussion on alcohol is that we're bringing it back to just like, what is reality? Yeah. What is the reality? And the reality is that people who have red and yellow dots in either of these, and especially both of these enzymes, alcohol is not helping you with any health goals. It may be of assistance in the right circumstance and moderation and setting for social, but I'm someone who's like, can you learn how to not need alcohol to be relaxed and social with someone instead of relying on it? And I realize that may be difficult for some people. This certainly was for me. But let me phrase, like, I don't drink alcohol, and I don't drink it, and I had to learn how to be social just with no alcohol, period, because I just didn't want to drink alcohol because of how damaging this has been to my family and circumstances. Right. The other thing I would say is that for people who have a green dot, this is not a license to drink alcohol. Yeah. You're actually at a higher risk of alcoholism. believe it or not. You're at a higher risk of alcoholism because you don't feel the immediate toxic effects or the hangover effects as much.
Clear the alcohol quickly.
Yeah, and so you're actually at risk of drinking more. And just because you don't feel sick doesn't mean you don't get drunk.
Yeah.
And there's
or that you're not doing damage.
Correct.
Internally. Yeah.
So because you are still making acetaldehyde, you're just clearing it faster, but it's still doing damage while it's there. Now there's a triangulation of genes.
I was going to say the trifecta. Can we talk about
Yeah,
the
we're going to talk about trifecta. So this is something, I don't know if someone else figured this out, but I know I figured it out on the fly when I was interviewing Dr. Fortuno, who's a PhD geneticist
she's amazing.
That works in the Fitgenes lab. So she's the one that comes up with the new panels, and she and I talk. When they come with a new panel, they send it over to me to analyze from a clinician standpoint, and then I interview Dr. Fortuno with my questions because she's crazy smart.
Yeah. You really want to nerd out. You listen to Dr. Shay.
I have recorded those
Dr.
interviews,
Fortuno
and they are not for the lay public. Yeah. They are.
But if you're a super nerd, go listen to them.
Yeah, they're intense. Which is very sweet, but it's you're the one who talks Scrabble words. Try every 3 seconds as a Scrabble word. So anyway,
the trifecta.
With the trifectas, we were talking about these two enzymes, but then we were also talking about, which we'll have a separate podcast on, the genes for sugar craving and the genes for bitter taste. And because
alcohol is a bitter
and a sweet.
And a sweet.
It's both. So what I realized was that people who had green dots in alcohol dehydrogenase and aldehyde dehydrogenase means they were higher risk of drinking more because they didn't feel the negative impacts of alcohol and can clear it faster, even though it's still doing damage. Then there's the flavor preferences, flavor preference genes. These are the people who are the red dots in bitter genes. This is the TAS. TAS or TAR. Oh God, it's one of the two.
We'll cover it.
We'll cover another one. There's the bitter genes.
Yep.
If they're a red dot, that means they don't really taste the flavor of bitter. So that means they drink more alcohol because the bitter flavor doesn't bother them. Then you have the people who are over cravers of the flavor of sugar, because a lot of alcohol is also very sweet. So it's both sweet and bitter, which seems paradoxical, but it's true.
Yeah.
So you have the people who are green dots in the alcohol detox genes, but red and yellow dots in the bitter detection and the sugar craving genes. Now you have this unholy trifecta where they like the flavor of alcohol from two separate angles, and they don't feel the immediate effects of it. That is a very dangerous triangulation of it. To the point that Dr. Fortuno loved that discovery. You can hear on the interview, I literally discovered it as we were talking. It's wait a minute. She actually added that analysis to the supplemental end of the food choice report. So when people are looking at their genes, they should also be looking at the sweet taste perception and the bitter flavor perception, because those are the people who are the most of drinking the most alcohol.
And where this would be a very hard no on alcohol.
Well, it would be it's
from a doctor clinician standpoint.
So it's sort of, because people who drink, who have the red dots in alcohol dehydrogenase and aldehyde dehydrogenase, the hard no is if they get red and start vomiting and nauseous and they're ill. That's a hard no on one side of it. So yes, it is a hard no for people who are green dot in those, but it's also a hard no for people who are just ill. But the reality is that people can be alcoholic no matter what their genetic combinations are, and that's more the hard no. There's some people who can process alcohol and appear to be quite functional, and they don't. It's again, the volume of alcohol absolutely has an impact, but it doesn't an alcoholic make. It's how much damage is being done to themselves and to their environment and the people and their relationships and their career and their future is what constitutes more of an addiction.
Yeah.
But people can still have problems without being addicted. And that's where we look at the binge drinkers, that they just, when they do drink once in a while, but they do, it's kind of not good.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of ways that alcohol should be a hard no, regardless of their genetic combination, because people can have emotional overrides to their genetics.
Yeah. Which could be a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole other podcast. Yeah. And I'd say that
the last few things that you would say to listeners on this topic.
I'm a fan of reality. Yeah. What is your reality with your relationship with alcohol? What is your relationship with alcohol in the real world? And then what is your relationship genetically?
Yeah.
And just be honest with yourself, please.
Yeah.
And
for you and for everyone around you.
For you and everyone else around you, I acknowledge the social trajectory that alcohol has put us all on. I accept that. I also want people to accept the catastrophic dangers alcohol poses.
Yeah.
And so if there is a way that people can have the social benefits of alcohol, either with way less of it or none of it, or learn how to do it without it, that'd be great. And otherwise, I think alcohol, the whole thing about, if I have 2 glasses, good for my heart. Dr. Huberman was saying this as of like this week. The actual updated science is like 0 is always better for health. And maybe up to 2 a week is relatively but not completely benign.
Yeah.
Now that's 2 a week, not 2 a night.
Right. And the average person, I don't know where we're at, but I think it's much more than 2
It's much more than 2. And there's also people who drink way more than their share to bring that average up to 2.
Yeah.
So I would close with this. I'm a fan of reality. Just have your reality checked around alcohol, both socially and genetically.
Yeah. Thank you.
There's
a lot in here, and I hope people really listen to it and re-listen to it. And if you have questions, reach out, and we're here to.
Yeah, we're on Instagram.
Yeah.
We're at the Fitgenes USA Instagram page. We'll be having these episodes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mikayla. Thanks for listening to the Fitgenes podcast. If you're a practitioner or certified health coach or clinician, visit FitgenesUSA.com to confidently bring genetics into your practice and improve your clients' outcomes. If you're a health seeker or lifelong learner or biohacker, go to FitgenesUSA.com to find the nearest Fitgenes practitioner near you. If you got value from today's episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. Every 5-star rating helps others find this show and unlock the power of their own genetic blueprint. Until next time, remember, genetics doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs the right blueprint.